Hello, this is Amanda, and welcome to another Fairy Stamper video. So, I have a little confession to make. I may have played a little April Fool's joke on you 2 weeks ago on my last video. I said that that was my last Fairy Stamper video. Well, some things changed in my life, and that wasn't my last Fairy Stamper video. I will be doing another term with Fairy Stamper, so I hope that makes you happy. It makes me happy. So today we will be doing an old school technique called tissue paper stamping. Tissue paper stamping is a fun mixed media technique where you stamp on tissue paper, and then once your ink is dry, you're going to crumple it up and collage it onto a card panel or whatever happens to be your thing. It doesn't have to be a card panel. It could be a journal or whatever. So I started off here with Dandelion, and I am stamping her in VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, and the ink does bleed through the tissue paper, so I got a piece of just copy paper here, and I'm going to stamp on that instead so I don't end up smearing ink all over my tissue paper here. So now I'm bringing out the fantasy flowers, and I'm going to stamp a bunch of them along the bottom, but I'm not going to show all of that. I'm just going to show one of each of these flowers, so you know what the flowers look like in the set if you are not familiar with the fantasy flowers. And then when I do some multiples in another color, I'm just going to show a few of those, and then we're going to, through the magic of editing on YouTube, all my stamping will be done. So I'm just going to show you one of each in these in the VersaFine Clair Nocturne, and then we will be moving on. So this technique provides a lot of texture in your background, and I think it looks really cool. You'll have to let me know what you think when you see the finished product and if it's something that you would do. So there are 4 stamps, 4 different flowers in the Fantasy Flowers set. 2 large ones and 2 small ones. So after I clean this stamp off, we're going to stamp the last one, and then we will move on to another color. All right, this is the last one. So I will bring out a little bit later a card panel to put behind this, and unless your tissue paper is really thin, I don't recommend stamping on that panel. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I am bringing out some Wendy Vecchi Make Art Blendable inks here. This is in watering can. I just wanted to add a little bit of depth behind my panel, or on my panel. So I did want to stamp in some gray as well, just to kind of give the appearance that the flowers are in the background. So that is why I'm stamping in the gray, and we're just going to stamp a few of those, and then now through the magic of editing, like I said, we have moved on to another piece here. This is the Moon Dust stamp, and I decided to stamp it in Distress Oxide. I'm going to bring out my little scratch paper here again, and this is in Chipped Sapphire. So you really can stamp in pretty much whatever ink that you want. I've used VersaFine Clair, I've used the Wendy Vecchi dye inks, and now I've used Distress Oxide. So I did dry this off screen with my heat tool. Just make sure that you don't burn it. But other than that, you can dry it with a heat tool. You can let it dry naturally. It doesn't matter. So now we are crumpling this up. And so I'm going to crumple it a couple times to get some different wrinkles and texture in there. You can crumple it once. You can crumple it as many times as you want. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that when you uncrumple it that you don't flatten it completely. So we're just going to leave some of those wrinkles in there. We're not going to completely flatten it. And this is my blended background that I did earlier. I just pulled this out of my box. I have a box of backgrounds. This was done with spray inks, I believe, a little bit of Distress Oxides and a little bit of Dilutions. And then I have some Collage Medium here. You can use Collage Medium. You can use matte medium, which is basically the same thing. I am not sure if Mod Podge would work. You can try it. I would test it on something small before I did a whole project with it. I'm not entirely sure if it would work or not, but this is what I had. So this is what I used. I'm getting down to the bottom of the jar there too, so I do need to get some more. But I'm applying it with a foam brush. You could definitely apply it with a paintbrush or whatever you would prefer to apply it with. This is what I had. So then we're just going to keep those wrinkles on there. I'm just making sure that my moon is up in the corner and those little pieces of the dandelion seeds are also on the corner, and they're not going to hang off my panel. That is what I definitely wanted to make sure would fit. And then the rest of it, I'm just kind of patting it down on there to make sure that it is adhered. And we keep that wrinkly texture by not completely flattening out that piece of tissue paper. Now I'm just going to cut off the corners, just miter the corners here. And then I'm going to wipe off my glass mat so I don't stick my card panel in the glue that's already on the glass mat. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the back. And we're just going to wrap that excess around the back and adhere it down. You could definitely cut the excess off if you prefer to do that. I just find that it gives a cleaner edge if I glue it down, and that it doesn't want to peel up later on. So I'm just going to carefully wrap that around and glue it down. And we'll just finish up the last two edges real quick, and that will finish off the technical pieces of our panel. Off screen, I did color in the fairy wings with some glitter pens and some of the flowers, flower centers at least, with some glitter pens, just to kind of bring a little bit of sparkle and interest to the panel. And then I matted the whole panel onto a kind of a navy blue cardstock and adhered that to the card base. So I'm just going to show you what this looks like before I did the coloring or anything. And then we're going to stamp the inside, and then I will show you the finished panel. So I did use the Delightful Sentiment, and again, one of those fantasy flowers to stamp the inside of my panel. And again, I'm using the VersaFine Nocturne, VersaFine Clair in Nocturne to stamp the inside. And so I'm just going to give you a final look at my card panel, or my card here, my finished card. And you can see all the sparkle and shine that those glitter gel pens added to the front of the card, and how pretty that made it. And again, there's a look at the inside. So I hope that you enjoyed the card for today, and I hope that you enjoyed the technique that added that lovely texture on the front of your card, or whatever project you happen to be adding it to. As always, there are links in the description box to the supplies that I use, the Fairy Stamper store and the Fairy Stamper Hugs group, where we all share our projects and have fun in the group. As always, have a great day.